Hey, I'm Ron Drotos from KeyboardImprov.com with our journey through the real book, number 166. Going through the real book, this is the 6th edition, the C version. It's very different actually than the real book I got in 1979, 80, somewhere around there. A friend of mine's father was a very famous jazz guitarist, Sal Salvador, and he got me my first real book, which wasn't officially published at the time. And I'm actually surprised at two things. One, how good the real book still is, because it was taken over by Hal Leonard, and they really seem to have treated it with a lot of care. But they did substitute a lot of tunes. I Should Care is one of those that was in the original real book, but it also, they changed a few of the chords, and they probably made it more like the original. The real book had some substitute chords here and there. I think they started the second half of the tune with an F sharp, minor 7 flat 5, yeah. Yeah, so instead of D minor 7 G7, they have F sharp minor 7 flat 5 B7, and then it goes to E minor 7 here. That's kind of a bebop thing, starting on the sharp 4 half diminished 7 sometimes. They do it on I Thought About You, other tunes like that too. I might play those, I don't know what comes, so they're the ones I'm used to playing. The tune itself is 32 bars, but it's not what we would consider the quote standard A song form. It's the other version, which is sort of A prime, like you divide the tune in half, and each ending goes in a different direction. All of Me would be a similar tune to this. Otherwise, it's pretty straight ahead. It was a favorite of the beboppers, and that brings me to interesting thing. The version with Thelonious Monk, it's an early Monk recording, and it has a singer, I think his last name is pronounced Hagood, Kenny Hagood. And I remember when I was in college, we'd hear this, and it's one of the few bebop tunes with a vocalist, you know. And the scene was pretty small at that time in New York City, and a little elsewhere, but mostly 52nd Street, New York City, and elsewhere throughout the city. And there was a singer on it, Kenny Hagood, and I remember when I was in college, my friends and I used to listen to it, and we thought, it's a little incongruous, like to our ears at the time. Like the vocal doesn't quite fit with what Monk's playing and the vibe of the others, you know. It just seemed a little jarring to us, and I couldn't figure out why. So then after college, I got a job as the assistant to Gerry Mulligan, the great saxophonist. And he was around. He recorded with Monk. He knew all these people. He actually recorded with Kenny Hagood too, because Gerry was instrumental in the birth of the Cool Band with Miles Davis. He was one of the main arrangers and leaders, really forming the group with Gil Evans and John Lewis. And Gerry didn't like to, so I was his assistant for 2 years, in 87 and 88. He didn't like to talk about the old days. He wanted to talk about the music he was making now, even with interviewers. One of my jobs was to get to the interviewer or the reporter before they got to Gerry and say, you can ask him about the old days, but you'll get a better response if you ask him about his new project or the album he just did with Zubin Mehta and the symphony, you know, things like that. But the one time that Gerry would talk about the old days was in the car coming home from a gig. So if you had a gig and we were in the car, I'd usually ride in the front seat next to the driver and he'd be in the back. And I could just sort of turn my head and ask him anything because he had so much energy and he was like a little kid. I could ask him about Charlie Parker. That was my time. That was like 2 hours in the car. So and I usually asked him just like, you know, things that I wanted to know and that weren't controversial, right? You want to, you know, you don't want to go there sometimes. But I did ask him about this. I stepped into somewhat dangerous territory and I said, by the way, you know, that singer Kenny Hagood you guys used, you know, he's like, yeah? And I said, I was just kind of wondering, you know, why'd you guys use that singer? Why'd you ask him to sing with you? And remember he said, why, don't you like him? And I said, no, I do like him, but I'm just kind of curious. And it was funny because he didn't really have an answer. He said, well, I guess he was around. And that was actually the answer. The light bulb went off in my head. There weren't many singers that were into bebop right at the beginning. The bebop singers that we think about, like John Hendricks from Lambert Hendricks and Ross, people who are scat singing, who have a lighter sound, who are very vocally flexible with their rhythms. Betty Carter, people like that. They weren't really from the early mid-40s and late 40s. Some of them started them, but they got more prominent later on as bebop became more established. In the early days, it was 52nd Street, New York City. There's probably only like 3 singers, who were interested in singing bebop. Dave Lambert would have been one of them. He recorded with Charlie Parker. So Kenny Hagood was around, and maybe he had a little bit more of a big brassy sound that to sing over a big band or something, and he brought it to these small groups of Monk. But he was around. He was probably a great guy. They liked to hang around with them, right? So they got him in. Monk recorded with them. Hey, let's get Kenny Hagood to play in Birthday Cool. So I'm really glad I asked that question, because it was always kind of a mystery to me. So check out Thelonious Monk, Kenny Hagood, I Should Care. Also, everything Monk recorded, actually, right? All those guys. All right. I'm going to start with a G pedal tone. Swing tempo, G pedal tone. I'm just going to see how long I can keep it going and what voicings go in the right hand. Here we go. whimsical endings, you know, where you're just kind of like, you know, whatever happens. That's the beauty of jazz, right? We don't know how it's going to end. If you want to hear a really fun, it's an arranged ending. It's not improvised because it's for horns. But listen to Louis Armstrong's recording of Chicago Breakdown. I think it's Don Redman's arrangement. Not really sure of that. Boy, say no more. The Beatles with Strawberry Fields Forever had nothing in terms of strange endings on I think it was Don Redman, like I said. But Chicago Breakdown, Louis Armstrong, 1929, somewhere around there. Weird ending, but wonderful. It just comes out of the blue. It's like the whole tune's on Earth, and they go to Mars or Saturn for that ending. And we can do that too. That's the fun thing, especially with solo piano. Hey, thanks for being here. If you're interested in Skype lessons, Zoom, or my video course, I'd love to help you out any way I can, get you to that level where you're playing with flow and fluency up to the next level. I teach beginners. People ask me, they say, you probably don't teach beginners. I love teaching beginners because that's when it starts to click for you. And you're like, oh, this is how I can do it. You just need to find that door. That's what everybody needs, the door, and it's for themselves. It's not necessarily the same door that worked for everybody else. So that's what you're looking for. Anyway, thank you. Next week we will look, my own piano teacher, Billy Taylor. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. It was sort of his kind of hit record. Thanks again. I'll see you then.